Hey listeners, welcome to another episode of the Hi-Fi Preschool and Kids Training Podcast. I am Crystal Mazuka here with the one, the only dynamic duo of Isaac and Kayla. How's it going, guys?
I went like air horns after that entrance. That's great.
Can you record that and like be my wake up sounding board every morning? Like, man, I'm pumped up to meet who this amazing person is.
You're a hype girl every day.
You're my hype girl, Crystal. Hey,
Absolutely.
listeners, thanks for listening in.
Well, we are really excited this July as we are diving deep into the truth. I am broken. In case you're just tuning in this week, we do have 2 podcasts every week this month. A separate one for preschool and kids because we do have different Bible stories and we really want to be intentional about how we are encouraging, equipping, and helping you as you prepare to lead and teach in your churches. So before we dive into this week, I have a fun question for my friends Isaac and Kayla, as well as for our listeners to ponder. What are some healthy habits that you have developed to take care of yourself? I know you guys well. I feel like I could answer this for you, but I'm going to just go ahead and let you speak for yourself.
Healthy habits to take care of yourself. You know, it's so funny because healthy habits, they're just like not roller coaster. That's the wrong word, but it's almost like a snowball. Like when you start one, all of these others, at least fall into place. Like when I start eating well, somehow I pay more attention to my finances and do better in that. And I drink more water and I'm a happier human and I'm thinking about other people more. And so it's fun to watch how the Lord has wired us when we don't like the idea of healthy habits, honestly, most of the time. But when that discipline comes in and we do start pursuing those healthy habits, then it just is a snowball effect of all these other ways in our lives that kind of balance out and get a little healthier. So, healthy habits that I've developed. I think one of the things that I have tried to do in this decade of life is to change my mindset from exercise to just moving my body and being healthy. And so I think I just grew up with some unhealthy thoughts around exercise and movement. And I've just learned that it's not so much like I would get into the shame cycle of like, oh, I didn't do it today. And so now I'm rats, like I'm a failure. I didn't do all these things. And so, but rather than that, like I really like have gotten into a better habit of how I think about the healthy habit of just like moving my body. Like even if it's 20 minutes, I did something for 20 minutes and choosing to do things that bring me joy. So you guys know, but listeners, the elliptical does not bring me joy at all.
Nope.
I hate it so much with a passion. We can talk about it later, but so I don't choose to do that. I don't think it's very productive. I don't love it. What I do love is going for a bike ride. And what I do love is being outside and going for a walk or going for a run, being in nature. And so finding ways that I enjoy those healthy habits and then that helps motivate me to do them more.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. How about you, Isaac?
All right. Well, humble brag. We need to talk about this because Lifeway had a healthy habits competition and our Hi-Fi Next Gen group team won second.
Yeah, we did.
So
yeah,
let's
we
go.
did.
I think Crystal was like top 3 or 4 in the whole company. Just saying, like she
was not, but I appreciate that, Isaac. I had my moment,
really,
and then
Crystal just needs to teach us how to have healthy habits.
for real.
Clearly is winning at life in that.
But with that with some of that reward that we got from that, I actually went out and got myself a new pickleball paddle, and I played pickleball for the first time this week. I know I'm way behind the curve on this. I've been out playing disc golf, and suddenly all of my friends were like, "Hey, you should come play pickleball," and it's been so much fun. I played for like 3 hours last night. It was tons of fun just being in community with people. Some of them aren't talking to me anymore after that because
Because you're Isaac and you're competitive.
But it's a good time. They invited me back tonight. It'll be great. So I'm excited. pickleball is my new healthy habit for the summer.
That's really good. And a fun fact for you listeners, if you didn't know, I am from Washington State, and pickleball is the official sport of Washington State. It was actually invented here on Bainbridge Island. So you didn't know, now you do. It's kind of fun. But I love this question because it makes me think about how there are things that we tend to do to make ourselves feel better. That's what these healthy habits are, right? Like our bodies aren't feeling great. So, oh, I need to eat better. I need to get some more sleep. Or, man, I'm feeling kind of down. So I'm going to pick up my pickleball paddle and go show my friends that I dominate. We love to do things to pick ourselves up. And this week, we are talking to kids about how God cares when we feel sad. And I think what's great about that is that God caring about us when we feel sad isn't necessarily a pick me up, but it does pick us up. His care and his compassion. And that's actually what we see in our Bible story for this week. And so kids are going to get to learn from Psalm 42, which, if you don't know off the top of your head, that is the classic, as a deer longs for water, so my soul longs for you. I grew up in the Lutheran church singing hymns, and there is a hymn that comes to mind with that one that I just have such a clear memory of singing along with the organ. But it's this idea that in that psalm, David is so just real before the Lord, where he says, God, I am longing for you because you know what? I am sad. I am broken. I am hurting. And he just lays it down. And then he kind of talks to himself where he says, why are you so downcast? Why do you feel this way? Like, turn to the Lord as this reminder. And I think what's so great is that we get to teach kids, like, you might feel sad right now. If you don't, you have, and you will. And when we are sad, it is okay. It is a result of just the brokenness of our world and the brokenness of our identities and who we are. And when you are sad, you don't have to pretend to be happy. You don't have to hype yourself up. You don't have to do a million things to make yourself feel better. What you can do is bring that sadness before the Lord and say, Lord, this is how I feel. I feel sad right now. And then you can remember who God is. You can remember how much he loves you. You can remember how great he is. And remembering who God is actually does help to alleviate some of that sadness in a way that all of the running and exercise and healthy eating and spending time with people won't do. Turning to God and remembering who he is, it does help us for that moment. Again, I love when David, I could just picture him nowadays. He'd be like, why are you acting like this? Why are you so downcast? Think about how great God is. And I love that we're going to get to talk to kids about that this week. And so as we talk about sadness, it's also a great opportunity for us to talk to kids about practicing compassion, compassion for themselves and compassion for others. So, Kara, what are some ways that we can help kids grow in this skill of practicing compassion?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think too, it's helpful to think through what is compassion, because I think that sometimes, our worlds and our circumstances, sometimes we just have to come back and say, okay, what does this word mean? And so as we think about compassion and words like empathy, like those are two different things, right? Empathy is kind of characterized by this awareness of other people's emotional experience. And then me like kind of feeling those same things or taking on some of those same emotions from their perspective. But I love what you said earlier, Crystal, about, these healthy habits that there's things that we do to kind of help pick ourselves up and kind of help motivate us to change that feeling, which is temporary. And I think that's so important as we're teaching about these feelings with kids, which we will all feel because of the broken nature that we have, but those feelings are temporary. It will not always be this way, and it will not define me. And so for kids, I think it's really helpful as we help them understand compassion, that kind of like what you were saying, those healthy habits of what we are doing to kind of help motivate and encourage ourselves in our own sadness compassion is doing that with another kid or with someone else, right? And so compassion is that desire to take action to help another person, to what we're doing to pick others up. So what are the healthy habits that we can center with compassion or can center around compassion with kids to help practice this skill? I think one of the big things we can do is just ask kids, like, here's a situation. How do you think you could help? And I think one of the big ones is we can pray, right? We can pray for our friends. We can pray for the situation. We are not in control of the circumstance. We're not in control of their feelings. We're not in control of what's going on, but we know who is, right? And so one of the ways that we can practice compassion is going to the Father and praying for our friends, and praying on their behalf for God to work, for God to to do what His will is in and through their lives. So I think absolutely prayer. But beyond that, I think, most of those action points are going to come depending on the situation or the circumstance. But just helping kids, be a good friend, be someone who listens, just in the same way where we kind of have to train and teach ourselves that we don't have to have all the answers. Kids don't have to have all the answers too either. Like sometimes compassion is just sitting with my friend. It's just letting them know that I'm there and I care about them. And that may mean what they want to do as they're sad is just to be sad and maybe not talk about it right now, but maybe just distract themselves for 30 minutes or to go play on the playground. And so I think that talking with kids is a great way of just asking them, like, how could you help in this situation? What do you think something that your friend would really appreciate or would lift them up or encourage them? And so I think practicing those skills, one, absolutely prayer for that person and for that situation. But outside of that, I think that there's a variety of ways, depending on what the situation is of sadness, and what the personality is of the kid involved, of what we can do. And there are definitely ways that we can uplift and encourage, based on how that person, needs to be encouraged in that moment.
That's great. And what a great opportunity we have to help kids develop those skills. I know when it comes to sadness too, this is something Isaac and I have a lot in common. We're very, very happy, energetic, outgoing people, which means that when people are sad, our first response is, I need you to not be sad because it makes me uncomfortable. So let me make you laugh and let me try and fix it. And so, and I think that we can do that with kids as well. And so, Isaac, I'm going to put you on the spot. How do you think that we as leaders can really care for kids who are going through difficult times and really going through seasons of sadness without carrying that burden of, I need to fix this. I need to make you feel better?
Crystal, I feel very called out, but also that because it is so true. Because honestly, I know especially when I was in at a local church in ministry, that when kids were having a bad day, when kids were coming into Sunday and you could see that they had been broken by something that week, I felt like it was my personal mission to make them smile that week. Yeah. And you honestly can't do that. That is not our power. That is but then also, like Kayla said, there are going to be small sadnesses and there are going to be big sadnesses. And some of those small sadnesses might be a lollipop or a high five can make them smile that morning. Or, I worked camp for a long time and it's crazy how many things an ice pack can actually heal other than injuries. But there are going to be times when it is outside of your control to cure the sadness per se, to help a kid really feel like, hey, that just kind of erase that sadness. Some of that is building the trust. It's not something that happens over 1 week. There is trust that needs to be built to say, hey, just for you to even ask the question, hey, what's going on? What's making you feel sad? And then for you then to be able to have those conversations and just be there with them. Sometimes the lollipop and the ice pack is just to show those kids, hey, you care enough that you see that they are sad and you want to do something to help them. And that's why some things like that do help kids get over that sadness in that moment. But some sadnesses are bigger. Some kids are going through some really, really difficult times. Things are happening in their life where an ice pack just won't fix it. And honestly, even you having a conversation on a Sunday morning, that can't fix it either. And that's when we have to do something, probably one of the hardest things that I feel like in ministry. And that's honestly turn it over to God and say, God, this is outside of my ability, but this kid is completely in your control. So sometimes you can pray with that kid, but also I encourage you, write down some kids that you are specifically praying for and pray for them throughout the week. Have them on your mind. If you have their family's number, text the family and say, hey, praying for you guys this week. So that way that the kids also know, hey, they're not just there for me on Sunday, but they're there for me throughout the week. And as we talk about these Psalms of how the Lord gives us hope, how he is here for us, he has put us in this place to be there for the kids. And we can never stand in that slot for God, but we can stand in that gap and show God to these kids of how when we are there for them in an even more amazing way, God is there for them every second of every day. And he does give us hope when we feel sad.
Amen. That's really good, Isaac. And, I always think about the fact that if we don't have sadness, we don't get to experience the comfort of God. That is a part of our relationship with him that is unique, that we really only get to see because of the sadness that comes from brokenness. And listeners, if I could leave you with, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 4. It's one of my most favorites. He comforts us in all our affliction so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any kind of affliction through the comfort we ourselves receive from God. As we teach kids this week that God comforts them in their sadness, we are helping to equip them to not only experience that, but then to be able to share that with others who are sad. You can be comforted the same way I have been comforted because I've experienced it myself. And so I just think that is so great. Listeners, I hope you'll tune in next week as it will be our last week with Dive Deep and the Truth I Am Broken. We are going to get to talk about how God cares when I feel angry. So keep your game face on and show up ready to listen and learn and get ready to share with kids. We'll talk to you then.